Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have David Toussaint. He is a financial and life coach, author, army veteran, and we'll be talking to him about a lot of things, including money and God. Welcome to the show, David.
Well, thank you, Jay. It's very nice to be here.
You are welcome to the show, David. You are welcome to India in this online form. And I am sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll be talking about money and God, as I told. So, David, before I come to both the things, most important things in our lives, both money and God, let me come to your life first. Tell us a bit about your journey. You have been an army veteran. You have now talked about God, talk about money. So your journey will be interesting to understand and a lot of lessons from there.
Well, thank you for the introduction, and thank you for allowing me to share with you. I was in the Army for a couple of years, and it was actually a good thing for me. It helped me develop discipline, and I really enjoyed the challenge. It worked out well. Then when I got out of the Army, then I was I thought I was really hot stuff. I mean, I was way up here. I had my college degree, and I was doing well. And then so I decided to go back to school, and so I did. I entered the university near me, and in a biochemical master's degree program, because my two undergraduate degrees were in biology and chemistry. And so I started that program, and it was just tremendous amount of lab work, all solo lab work. And I just didn't like that. I'm a people person, and I just didn't know what to do about it. But without any counsel, I talked to no one about this. I just decided, at the end of this semester, I'm going to quit this and see what kind of good job I can make. So I had made my decision, but I had not acted on it yet. And so I was driving to the dormitory where I lived one day, and amazing to me, by the side of the road, I saw my old chemistry professor from Asbury University standing by the side of the road by his old Buick. What in the world was he doing there? So I stopped the car, and I went up and said, "Well, hi, Dr. J. How are you doing? What are you doing here?" And he said, "Well, I am. My daughter is taking a few classes here, and I'm helping her move in at this dormitory right here." I said, "Oh, okay." And he said, "Well, David, you know what? You and my daughter need to meet, and maybe you could become friends and support each other." And I said, without any counsel, I said one of the dumbest things I have ever said in my entire life. I said, "Well, thanks, Dr. J. Well, let me think about it." And I turned around, and I got in my car, and I drove off. And later I thought, David, why did you do such a thing? Because here it was. What are the chances of me? And how long was Dr. Ray standing beside his old Buick by the side of the road? 2 minutes, 4 minutes, maybe, waiting for the traffic to come. How long? Very short period of time. And God had some counsel in mind for me, and I turned it down. And I've regretted that ever since. But anyway, so I felt like he wanted to tell me that, David, you need some counsel about this. You just need to hang into this master's degree program for another year, year and a half at the most, and then you would be set, for the next 20 or 30 years. But instead, I made things harder for myself. So one of the verses that we learn in the Bible is, "The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but a wise man is he who listens to counsel." I did not do that. Here I was, the Army veteran. I thought I was hot stuff and make my own decisions, and I made a bad decision. So after I thought about that, I learned I need counsel on a regular basis. Not just even then, even now. Here I'm in my 70s, and I still need counsel. We all need counsel, and that's the reason that verse is in the Bible. The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but a wise man is he who listens to counsel. So anyway, so then I got some good jobs and went from one thing to the other, and then I decided I wanted to get in real estate. So I was able to leverage some money that had coming to me, and so I eventually obtained 88 apartments. which is a good amount of apartments, and so I was set. Actually, I was really set because I was making $50,000 from just the net income, and then I had a big mortgage on one of them, and my mortgage payment was $8,000 a month, and this would have been in early 2004 or so, and by 2013, that mortgage of $8,000 a month would be paid off. So then that $8,000 a month would come to me, right? So I have an $8,000 a month, which would be another basically $100,000 per year, and so I had $150,000 income just sitting there waiting for me, right? But God, it's interesting how it works. So I had fixed up I had 3 buildings. I had fixed up these 2 buildings, really looking well, and then this one guy came by and he said. He went to the manager's office. He says, "Is this place for sale? I'd really like to kind of buy this place." And my manager called me. He says, "David, is this place for sale?" I said, "Well, I don't think so, but I'll talk to the guy." And so I talked to him, and he made me an offer, and I took the offer to my accountant. And my accountant says, "David, you're going to have to pay half of everything you get out of this property because you've depreciated it down all these years and taking the tax benefit. So you're going to have to, the government wants to recoup their money. And so they're going to charge you half all this money when you sell the property." I said, "Well, my goodness, I can't do that. That would be a terrible investment. That'd be awful." So I told the guy, "No, I'm sorry, I can't do that." And so he went on down the road, and you know how your brain just kind of revisits things, and so every month, basically, all the employees did what they were supposed to do, basically all I had to do was pay the bills every month, and that's why I had the money coming in. And I just had to write the checks and pay the bills. And so, but every month when I paid the bills, I got this still voice back here: "David, are you sure you did the right thing? David, are you really sure you did the right thing?" And so this goes on for a year and a half, and the voice kind of gets louder and louder and louder and louder. And so, what should I do about this? I mean, if I sell this property, it's gonna mess up all our plans. I'm gonna have to pay this big tax. I'm not gonna have the income coming in. But I had become involved in a ministry at that time called Crown Financial Ministries. Now it's called Compass Finances God's Way. And I said, "Well, I want to do whatever God wants me to do." So finally, a year and a half later, this is December now, in 2003, I said to my wife, "We need to pray about this. Seriously, pray about this." So we prayed about it. This was a Saturday night in December. So we prayed, "Lord, if you want me to sell this property, then number one, I need to have at least as much money as I was getting offered before. Number two, I wasn't paying a real estate fee of 2 or 4 or 6% before. That's expensive, and so I don't want to pay a real estate fee. And number three, Lord, I am busy. I am going here and here and here and here and here and here and here. I don't have time to look for a buyer. You've got to bring me a buyer." That's a pretty specific prayer request, right? 3 things, okay? Price, no commission, and you got to bring the buyer. So that next Wednesday, I was meeting a guy that was interested in getting the ministry that I was involved in his own church. And I meet with those guys all the time. So I met with him Wednesday, and I said, "Well, Scott, what do you do for a living?" He says, "I own and manage apartments, and I'm looking to buy more." I could have met with 20,000 people for lunch and not got that answer. And I said to him, "This might be a holy moment. I almost got lightheaded sitting right there at the restaurant. This is incredible." So anyway, so we, I went home, told my wife, I said, "Should we do this? Should we do this?" And she said, "Honey, God's got his hand written all over this." And so I did. We made our deal, and that 6 months later, we closed on it. And then the next April, when taxes are due, I paid the big tax. And but then I had another problem because, see, I had 2 maintenance guys, and the maintenance guys were in would every Wednesday they would go from the 2 big buildings over to the small building and do the maintenance on Wednesdays. And so, but the big buildings were gone now, right? I sold them. And so now I had to do the maintenance myself, or I had to contract out every job. And so I did that for 2 years. And but this time I was district manager. I had a responsibility of 5 states, and I was just down there. I was exhausted one day. This is in August of 2006. I was just, how can I do this? I'm just so tired. I said, Lord, if you want me to sell this property too, and you provide me a buyer, then I'll sell it. A week later, on a Thursday that next week, this guy calls me. He says, David, Mr. Toussaint. He says, do you own the property at 36 on Central? I said, yes, I do. He said, well, my boss just bought the big property down the street from you, and he wants me to find out if I can buy other properties in the area, and he can manage them all together. Would you be interested in selling? So each time I made the prayer, God answered that within 1 week. And I told him, well, maybe I will. And so we made our deal, and 2 months later I closed. And then it worked out that God acted in my life. I mean, how could those things happen without some kind of a supernatural event happen? It couldn't. So then I had this money, but then it wasn't. I figured it out. I had to have a 17% return in order to live at the same standard of living I was living at before. And I talked to one of my advisors seeking counsel, and he said, "You can't do that. You're not going to get a 17% return." And so he was right. I didn't, and I even lost some. And I said, "What in the world am I going to do?" So my wonderful wife, who was a respiratory therapist before we married, every few months, she would wake up early in the morning, like 5:30 in the morning, and meet with one of her friends, and they would go downtown and get her continuing education class for her respiratory therapist designation. And I said, "Honey, why are you doing this? I got us all covered." She says, "I just feel like I should do this." So she had done that. So she was current, and she said, "Well, let me try to find." So here, when all this happened, I was bemoaning my situation and our situation, and she said, "Well, let me try to find a job." Well, this was in 2009, in the throes of the Great Recession. I said, "Why are you going to get a job now?" So she put out her little network, and in 2 weeks, she had a full-time job making more money than she ever made before. And then after a few wrinkles, it turned into the best job she ever had before. She loved the job, and she did it for 10 years. And so God worked in our lives in a powerful way. So that's kind of my story there. I have some other thoughts about money and investing and stuff. But anyway, the point is that I humbled myself to the one true God, and He worked in my life. He worked in my life.
Absolutely. How did you have so much of trust on God that you will pray, and He will listen? Especially in business purposes, I thought God does not intervene in business purposes.
Yeah, I think God is interested in all parts of our lives, every aspect of our life. And if we humble ourselves to Him, then there's a 1 Chronicles 29:11-12 says, "Everything in the heavens and the earth is yours, O Lord. This is your kingdom. We adore you as being in control of everything. Riches and honor come from you alone. You are the ruler of all mankind. Your hand controls power and might, and as at your discretion that men are made great and given strength." So God says, "Hey, I want you to know I run the show. And so I'm interested in everything." And then there's a verse about money. Luke 16:11 says, "If therefore you've not been faithful in the use of worldly wealth, who will entrust the true riches to you?" So God said, "Hey," and the question is, what are the true riches? The true riches is a close relationship with God. That's that close relationship. That's the true riches. So if we're not been faithful, so God wants us to be faithful in how we use our money. And I wouldn't have sold those properties. I would not have done that, but God. Okay. And so it's worked out, because then COVID happened and all these things, crazy things happened. Now I'm not saying that it wouldn't have been, still would have been a good investment. It very well could have, but God told me to sell it. And so I did.
So you did. You taught a lot of classes about, finances God's way.
Mm-hmm.
I want to understand, what does this mean, and what can people learn from you? What did you teach people about this?
Sure, that's great. It's a great thing. Well, what we teach is number one, God said in His Word that he owns it all. He says, I made the earth. I made you. I made everything. I made the mountains and the valleys. I made everything. It's all mine. And I'm not giving it back. Everything in the heavens, the earth, the verse I quoted, everything in the heavens, the earth is yours, O Lord. This is your kingdom. We adore you as being in control of everything. So he runs the show. So number one, we have to recognize that he owns it all. Number two, he runs the show. So if he runs the show, then we need to find out, well, God, how do you want me to run the show on my end for you? You know, how do you want me to do it? And so Luke 16:11, it says, if therefore you've not been faithful in this world, so you need to be faithful. Another thing God says is that he doesn't like debt. Proverbs 22:7 says, just as the rich rule the poor, so the borrower is servant to the lender. Now, debt's not a sin, but God says you need to be really careful about debt. And I was really careful about it. And so I was doing well. But the point is that most people are not careful about debt. They get into debt. They got these credit card debts. I met with a guy just yesterday, who had $44,000 in credit card debt at 18%. So he was suffering, right? So we provided a solution for him to work his way out of that. But at any rate, so God has a plan for every aspect of your life, and especially your money. He will convey that to you when and if you humble yourself to him and really seek his plan. And so the ministry that I have has books. And for example, I've written 2 books myself. One of the books is When Money Gets Personal. Okay. And handling financial dilemmas in life's defining moments. And so so I've been coaching for 30 years. Okay. So I've been around the block. So there are 70 stories in here, more than 70 actually, which are real solutions. They're real stories with real solutions to help people navigate the crucial money moments in their lives. And they're proven, they're guaranteed to help because they come right out of God's word. So solutions like, what do you do if you have no peace? As a woman, how to regain control and peace? What do you do if you can't make your payments? Like this guy I talked to you Thursday. And how do you deal with hospital bills? Because those can run up really quick. How to deal with co-signing? What if you can't keep your promises? And how to use the debt snowball method. So that's what's in this book. And that's just one example of how do you know what God wants us to do with our money. So this has scriptures all through it, which say what God wants you to do here and here and here and here and here. So if you've humbled yourself to him and you follow those scriptures, he works in your life, and sometimes in magnificent ways.
Absolutely. In magnificent ways. But what about those people who charge, a huge amount of interest to make huge amount of money for themselves? Is it right? Is it wrong? What do you think God thinks about that?
Who borrow huge amounts of money?
No, those who charge huge amount of interest because somebody else needs money in distress or for whatever.
Well, I think that those people are probably greedy, and God doesn't think too highly of greed. And so at the end of your life, when you see him, when you see God one day, what are you going to answer to him? He says, well, what did you do with your life? How did you help people with your life? How did you further my kingdom with your life? How did you do that? And so they're going to have to answer that question.
Absolutely. Everyone has to answer their questions. Now, in terms of, finances, David, you are a financial coach. What do you want to tell, especially the young generation? How should they look at their finances? How should they look at money, relationship with money, relationship with God, relationship with peace in their lives?
That's a great question. I do have a book for younger people, by the way. It just so happens. And it's called Keep the Change. Okay.
Yes.
Keep the Change. And it's Ignite Your Potential, 20 plus stories to empower you to build a successful future in work, finance, and life. Okay. And so it's, by the way, both these available on Amazon.com. But at any rate, what do I tell a young person? Number one, that young person needs to find the job that God has prepared for them. Because every one of us has specific skills and abilities and talents and passions. And so what we need to do is we need to zone in on what those are for ourselves, and then pursue a job that's in line with that. And so, but how do you know? And so in that book, we present ideas and ways to find out who you really are and what God designed you to be. That's what you want to do. Is what does God design you to do and to be? And so number one, that's you got to get in your area of passion, get in your area of talent, so that they do that. And then number two, then you need to be careful about debt, because the world says, hey, with advertisements on all the advertisements on TV says that they create dissatisfaction in you, so you can't be happy unless this shirt's 5 years old. My goodness, you got to get new shirts. And your car is 10 years old. My goodness, you got to get a new car. And they show the benefits of the car over and over and over and over, and the benefits of the certain clothes and for women especially, you can't be with it unless you have the latest style, the latest makeup, the latest hairstyle, and all this kind of stuff. And God says, no, that's not correct. I created you for just the way you are, to be perfect, and you are perfect for the job that I have for you. You just need to determine what that job is and then go for it. So number one, you go for that job, whatever it is, and then you're conservative with your money. You don't borrow unnecessarily, and so that's a key thing. And so if you haven't got the money to do something, then you don't do it, and you pray about, Lord, I really feel like, or for example, let's say you need a car, okay, and well, I'll give you a personal testimony, okay, as example, okay. So I like sports cars, and I used to have a Triumph TR6. I don't know if you remember what those were, but built by British Leyland Motors in England. But at any rate, so I had that for 20 years, loved the car, and so now I had a Buick LeSabre. It was an old man's car. And I'm an old man, but I don't want to drive an old man's car. So Lord, I would like to drive a new car, but you know that I've got my investments here and here and here, and I don't want to disturb all these investments and spend money on a car. And so if you want to provide me one, I would really appreciate that. So I said that prayer, and then I then not too long after that, one of my son's friends drove up to our house in a Chrysler Crossfire. I don't know if you know what a Crossfire is. It's a little two-seater with a big engine and big tires on the rear, and it will go fast and go around corners fast. So anyway, so after he left, I was complimenting Billy, but that guy's got a sharp car. He says, yeah, he says, you know what? He wants to sell that for only $3,750. No, he said $2,750, $2,750. I said, really? And I spoke to my wife. I said, do you think I should go for that? She said, well, yeah, if you want it. So I called him and I said, hey, Nick, would you be interested in selling your car? He said, no, it's $5,000. He says, it went $20,750. I was wrong. It's going to be $5,000. And I thought to myself, well, that car, this is a number of years ago, by the way, before cars got as expensive as they are now. So anyway, I said, well, no, I don't think it's worth $5,000. It's got damage on this left rear fender and some other things. And I said, I'll pay you the $2,750. No, I don't want to do that. So we went back and forth, and we got nowhere. And that was in September. So I pretty much forgot about it. And then my other son, who has some issues with he's a bipolar ADHD guy, and so anyway, he blew the engine in his car. It had a little bit of radiator leak, and he didn't water pump leak. I don't know what it was, but anyway, he ran it out of fluid, and then so he kept driving it. And I told him to stop. He kept driving it, and so he cracked the head, and so that engine is pretty much toast. And so this was okay. The initial thing happened in September, so now we're in December. So in December, I said, no, I've got to work on getting him a car because he needs a car. He was starting a new job in February that would require him to do a lot of driving, and he needed a good car. So I prayed. So this is the first Tuesday in January. And I was back at work, and I was praying at my desk, Lord, I've got to get him a car. So what do I do about that? And I was thinking about it, and the phone rang. I thought, good grief, I can't even pray without the phone ringing. That's what I thought. So anyway, so I answered the phone, and lo and behold, it was Nick, the guy with the Crossfire. And he says, is this Billy's dad? I said, yes, it is. He said, are you still interested in that Crossfire? I said, yeah. he says, well, my mother here. Talk to my mother, because his mother was the one that owned the car, really. And so we talked, and she says, well, the car is up at the Chrysler dealership. It's got some ignition problems and other things, and it's been sitting there for over 30 days, and now they want to charge me for storage fees, parking fees, and I don't want to pay that. She said, how much would you pay for the car? So here, I didn't know what was wrong with it, right? So I just said, well, I'll give you $1,000. She says, okay. so anyway, so I met her, bought her and her husband paid the $1,000, got the title, went to the dealership, showed them my papers, and they said, well, fixing this car will be about $1,800. So 1,000 plus 1,800, so it was $2,800, just about the money that I had offered in the first place. So God gave me this car, and it had 120,000 miles, which is a lot of miles, but it's a sharp little sports car. Engine's in good shape, transmission's in good shape. It goes fast. So God worked in my life, didn't he? So I prayed, and then I waited, and he worked. So that's an example of how God will work in your life. You can just say, God, I need this, and I need this now. No, it doesn't work that way. You pray about it, and you wait on God's timing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There is much to learn about life, much to learn about money, much to learn about peace from you, David. And I'm sure a lot of people would like to connect with you and also read your books to understand a lot about all these things. So what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Well, the best way would be, I guess, my website, When Money Gets Personal. And it's the same name as this book right here, whenmoneygetspersonal.com.
Right.
Or they can just buy the book, and they can connect with me that way. I'd also recommend them the ministry that I'm involved in is Compass, Finances God's Way, and so Compass, www.compass1.org, and the number 1 is a good choice to pursue this area. So anyway, that's but so that's how you operate your life. And so the point is you humble yourself to the one true God, and you seek him, and you give God time to work, and you focus on his word and what he says about money.
Wonderful. Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Okay. Thank you for your time.